Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yata Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shivishikam Vitam Scha Om Jnana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shilakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gurva Bhistam Supurikam Guraganara Sisha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipanam Shivrupa Patanugam Govindam Vidam Ujwalam Varatanam Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Mande Vishwa Guruncha Divyat Bhagavad Premnoi Bija Pranam Devam Divyatanam Suchandavanam Balarka Shelanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sadekavaranam Vairagya Vidyambudim Sri Sadanta Nidim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Bandetam Shubharam Madeka Sharanam Nyasishwara Sridharam Manchakopatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavenibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahamaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratavishe Namah. So we're hearing from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Translation and commentary by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This is Madhya-lila, chapter 13, the Lord's dancing at Ratha-yatra. And here we're seeing where Mahaprabhu is in the mood of Srimati Radharani encountering Krishna in Kurukshetra after so many years, and the conversations going on back and forth. He's relating. Brajabasi Jatajan Mata Pita Sakagan Sabe Hoy Mora Pranasam Taramaje Gopigan Shakat Mora Jivan Tumi Mora Jivanera Gyan. Sri Krishna continued, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan Dham, my mother, father, cowherd boyfriends, and everything else are like my life and soul, and among all the inhabitants of Vrindavan, the gopis are my very life and soul. And among the gopis, you, Srimati Radharani, are the chief. You are the very life of my life. Srimati Radharani is the center of all Vrindavan's activities. In Vrindavan, Sri Krishna is the instrument of Srimati Radharani. Therefore, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan still chant Jai Radhe. From Krishna's own statement given herein, it appears that Radharani is the queen of Vrindavan and that Krishna is simply her decoration. Krishna is known as Madan Mohan, the enchanter of Cupid, but Srimati Radharani is the enchanter of Krishna. Consequently, Srimati Radharani is called Madan Mohan Mohini, the enchanter of Cupid. Toma Sabar Prema Rase Amake Korila Base Amitomar Adina Keva Tomasab Chadaya Amadura Deshilaya Rakijache Durdaiva Prabham. My dear Srimati Radharani, I am always subservient to the loving affairs of all of you. I am under your control only. My separation from you and residence in distant places have occurred due to my strong misfortune. Priya Priya Sangahina Priya Priya Sangabina Nahi Jiye E Satya Saman. No, Priya Priya Sangahina Priya Priya Sangabina Nahi Jiye E Satya Praman Moradash Shone Jabe Tara Eda Shahabe Ebaye Duhe Rake Pran. When a woman is separated from a man she loves, or a man is separated from his beloved woman, neither of them can live. It is a fact that they live only for each other. For if one dies and the other hears of it, he or she will die also. Say Sati Premavate Premavan Se Pati Viyoge Je Manche Priya Hite Nagane Apana Duk Manche Priya Jana Suk Se Dui Mile Achirate. Such a loving, chaste wife and loving husband desire all welfare for each other in separation and do not care for personal happiness. Desiring only each other's well-being, such a pair certainly meet again without delay. Rakite Tumara Jivan Sevyami Narayan Tara Shakti Asi Niti Niti Tomasane Kridakori Nite Jai Jadupuri Taha Tumi Manaha Moraswurti. You are my most dear, and I know that in my absence you cannot live for a moment. Just to keep you living, I worship Lord Narayan. By his merciful potency, I come to Vrindavan every day to enjoy pastimes with you. I then return to Dwarkadam, thus you can always feel my presence there in Vrindavan. Morabhagya mo bishaye tomaraye prema hoye se prema parama prabha lukaya ama ane sanga karaya tomasane prakateha anibe satbar. Our love affair is more powerful because of my good fortune in receiving Narayan's grace. This allows me to come there unseen by others. I hope that very soon I will be visible to everyone. Jadavera vipaka jatadushta kamshapaka taha ami koilun sab koi ache dui chare jan taha mare brindaban Ailama Ami Jania Nisjoy. I have already killed all the mischievous demons who are enemies of the Yadu dynasty, and I have also killed Kamsa and his allies. But there are 2 to 4 demons still living. I want to kill them, and after doing so, I shall very soon return to Vrindavan. Please know this for certain. Say Satrugana Hoite Brajajan Rakite Rahe Raje Udasina Haya Jebastri Putradane Kore Raja Abarane Jadugane Santosha Lagia. I wish to protect the inhabitants of Vrindavan from the attacks of my enemies. That is why I remain in my kingdom. Otherwise I am indifferent to my royal position. Whatever wives, sons, and wealth I maintain in the kingdom are only for the satisfaction of the Yadus. Tomaraje Premagun Koreyama Akarshan Anibeyama Dina Dashabishe Punashe Brindavane Brajabadu Tomasane Vilasiba Rajanidibase. Your loving qualities always attract me to Vrindavan. Indeed, they will bring me back within 10 to 20 days. And when I return, I shall enjoy both day and night with you and all the damsels of Brajabhumi. Etatari Kohe Krishna Braje Jaite Satrishna Ek Shloka Pare Shunaila Se Shloka Shunirada Kandila Sakala Bhara Krishna Prapte Pratiti Hoila. While speaking to Srimati Radharani, Krishna became very anxious to return to Vrindavan. He made her listen to a verse which banished all her difficulties and which assured her that she would again attain Krishna. Mai bhaktiri bhutanam amritat vayakalpate distyayad asin mat sneho bhavatina mad apana. Lord Krishna said, devotional service unto me is the only way to attain me, my dear gopis. Whatever love and affection you have attained for me by good fortune is the only reason for my returning to you. Samartha Prabhu Swaruparasane Ratri Dine Gare Base Kore Aswadane. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would sit in his room with Swarup Damodar and taste the topics of these verses day and night. Nrityakale se babe avishtahaya shloka parinache Jagannath mukha chaya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced completely absorbed in ecstatic emotion. While looking at the face of Lord Jagannath, he danced and recited these verses. Swarup Gosaira Bhagyana Jai Barnan Prabhute Avishta Jara Kai Bhakyaman. No one can describe the good fortune of Swarup Damodar, for he is always absorbed in the service of the Lord with his mind, body, and words. Swarupera Indriye Prabhur Nijendriya Gan Avishtahoya Kore Ganashvadan. The senses of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were identical with the senses of Swarup. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to become fully absorbed in tasting the singing of Swarup Damodar. Bhavarave Kabu Bhumete Basya Tarjanite Bhume Like Adomukahaya. In emotional ecstasy, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would sometimes sit on the ground and looking down would write on the ground with his finger. Angolite Kata Habe Janidamudar Bai Nijakore Nivaraye Prabhukar. Fearing that the Lord would injure his finger by writing in this way, Swarup Damodar checked him with his own hand. Prabhura Bhava Nurupa Swarupera Gan Jabeje Rasataha Kore Murtiman. Swarup Damodar used to sing exactly according to the ecstatic emotion of the Lord. Whenever a particular mellow was being tasted by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Swarup Damodar would personify it by singing. Whatever mellow was being experienced by Mahaprabhu, Swarup Damodar would personify it by singing. Sri Jagannath ere deke Sri Mukha Kama Tahara Upara Sundar Nayana Jugal. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu looked upon the beautiful lotus-like face and eyes of Lord Jagannath. Suryara kirane mukh kore jalamo maya bastra dibya alankara parimo. Lord Jagannath was garlanded, dressed with nice garments, and adorned with beautiful ornaments. His face was glittering from the rays of sunshine, and the entire atmosphere was fragrant. Prabhura Ridoye Ananda Sindhu Utalila Unmara Janja Bata Tatkane Utila. An ocean of transcendental bliss expanded in the heart of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and symptoms of madness immediately intensified like a hurricane. Anandonmare utaya bhavera taranga nanabhava sanye upajila juda ranga. The madness of transcendental bliss created waves of various emotions. The emotions appeared like opposing soldiers staging a fight. Bhavodaya Bhava Shanti Sandhi Subhaya Sanchari Satvika Stayi Sabhava Prabhaya. There was an increase in all the natural emotional symptoms. Thus there were awakening emotions, peacefulness, joined, mixed, transcendental and prevalent emotions and impetuses for emotion. All these are Bhaval Doi, Bhaval Shanti, Sandhi, Subhalya, Sanchari, Sattvika Sthai, Sabhava Prabhalya. Bhava Uday, awakening of emotion. Bhava Shanti, emotions of peace. Sandhi, the junction of different emotions. Sabhalya, mixing of all emotions occurring. Sanchari, impetuses for all kinds of emotion. Sattvika means transcendental. Sthai, prevalent. Sabhava, natural emotion. Prabhalya would increase. There was an increase in all the natural emotional symptoms. Thus there were awakening emotions, peacefulness, joint emotions, mixed emotions, transcendental and prevalent emotions, and impetuses for emotion. In other words, what would promote a particular emotion. Prabodha Sharira Jena Shuddha Hemachao Bhava Pushpa Drumatahe Pushpita Sakal. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's body appeared like a transcendental Himalayan mountain bearing ecstatic emotional flower trees, all of them blooming. Dekiteya Karshaye Sabar Chittaman Premamrita Vrishte Prabhu Sinche Sabarman. The sight of all these symptoms attracted everyone's mind and consciousness. Indeed, the Lord sprinkled everyone's mind with the nectar of transcendental love of Godhead. Jagannath Sevaka Jata Rajapatragan Jatrika Loka Nila Chala Basi Jatajan. He sprinkled the minds of the servants of Lord Jagannath, the government officers, the pilgrim visitors, the general populace, and all the residents of Jagannath Puri. Prabhura Nritya Prema Deki Hoy Chamatkar Krishna Prema Ucha Lila Hridaye Sabar. Upon seeing the dancing and ecstatic love of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, everyone became astonished. In their hearts they became infatuated with love of Krishna. Preminache Gai Lok Kore Kolaha Prabhura Nritya Deki Sabe Anande Vivo. Everyone danced and chanted in ecstatic love, and a great sound resounded, and a great noise resounded. Everyone was overwhelmed with transcendental bliss just to see the dancing of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Anjara Ki Kai Jagannath Haladar Prabhura Nritya Deki Suke Chalila Mantar. Apart from the others, even Lord Jagannath and Lord Balaram, with great happiness, began to move very slowly upon seeing the dancing of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Kabum Suke Nritya Ranga Deke Rata Raki Se Kotuka Jai Dekila Se Tarasaki. Lord Jagannath and Lord Balaram sometimes stopped the car and happily observed Lord Chaitanya's dancing. Anyone who was able to see them stop and watch the dancing bore witness to their pastimes. E Mata Prabhu Nritya Korite Brahmite Prataparudra Age Lagila Parite. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was dancing and wandering in this way, he fell down in front of Maharaj Prataparudra. Sambrame Prataparudra Prabhuke Dorila Tahake Dekite Prabhur Bhayagyana Hoila. Maharaj Prataparudra picked the Lord up with great respect, but upon seeing the king, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to his external senses. Rajadeki Mahaprabhu Korana Dikar A Misa Jira Sparsha Hoila Amar. After seeing the king, Mahaprabhu condemned himself, saying, "Oh, how pitiful it is that I have touched a person who is interested in mundane affairs. I've been touched by a Vishayi. How pitiful it is. Avishete Nityananda Nahoila Sabadane Kashishvara Govinda Chila Anyastane." Not even Lord Nityananda Prabhu, Kashishvar, or Govinda took care of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he fell down. Nityananda was in great ecstasy, and Kashishvar and Govinda were elsewhere. Jajapi Rajar Deki Hadira Sevan Prasana Hayat Chaitari Milibareman. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had already been satisfied by the king's behavior, for the king had accepted the service of a sweeper for Lord Jagannath. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually desired to see the king. Tatapi apanagane korite sabadan baye kichu roshabasha koila bhagavan. However, just to warn his personal associates, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, externally expressed feelings of anger. When Maharaj Prataparudra asked to see the Lord, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately refused, saying, Niskinchanasya Bhagavad Bhajanon Mukasya Param Param Jigamishur Bhava Sagarasya Sandarshanam Vishainam Atayoshitam Cha Ahanta Hanta Visha Bhakshanatopi Asadu. The word Niskinchanasya refers to a person who has finished his material activities. Such a person can begin to execute his activities in Krishna consciousness to cross over the ocean of nescience. It is very dangerous for such a person to have intimate relationships with mundane people or to become intimately related with women. This formality is to be observed by anyone who is serious about going back home, back to Godhead. To teach his personal associates these principles, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu expressed external. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to teach his personal associates these principles, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu expressed external anger when touched by the king. Since the Lord was very much satisfied with the humble behavior of the king, he intentionally allowed the king to touch him, but externally expressed anger just to warn his personal associates. Prabhuravachane Rajar Mane Hoilabai Sarvabhauma Kohe Tumina Kora Samshai. Maharaj Prataparudra became frightened when Lord Chaitanya showed external anger, but Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya told the king, "Don't worry. Tomaru Pare Prabhur Supra Sanaman Tomalakya Kori Shikayina Nijagan." Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya informed the king, "The Lord is very satisfied with you. By pointing you out, he was teaching his personal associates how to behave with mundane people." Although outwardly the king was a mundane man interested in money and women, externally he was purified by devotional activities. He showed this by engaging as a street sweeper to please Lord Jagannath. A person may appear to be a pounds and shillings man, interested in money and women, but if he is actually very meek and humble and surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is not mundane. Such a judgment can be made only by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his very confidential devotees. As a general principle, however, no devotee should intimately mix with mundane people interested in money and women. Abasara janiyami koriba nibedan, sekali jai koriba prabhura milan. Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya continued, I shall submit your petition when there is an opportune moment. It will then be easy for you to come and meet the Lord. Tabe Mahaprabhu Rata Pradakina Korea Rata Pache Jai Tele Rate Mata Diya. After circumambulating Jagannath, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went behind the car and began pushing it with his head. Teli Chalila Rata. So Prabhura Bachane Rajar Mane Hoy Labai Sarvabhauma Kohetumi Nakora Samshai. King Prataparudra became frightened when Lord Chaitanya showed external anger. But Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya told the king, don't worry. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya informed the king, the Lord is very satisfied with you. By pointing you out, he was teaching his personal associates how to behave with mundane people. He continued, I shall submit your petition when there is an opportune moment. It will then be easy for you to come and meet the Lord. Tabe Mahaprabhu Rata Pradakina Korea Rata Pache Jai Tele Rate Mata Diya. After circumambulating Jagannath, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went behind the car and began pushing it with his head. Tele Chalila Rata Hara Hara Kori Chaturdike Lok Sab Bole Hari Hari. As soon as he pushed, the car immediately started to move, making a rattling sound. The people all around began to chant the holy name of the Lord. Hari Hari. Tabe Prabhu Nija Bhakta Gana Loya Sange Baladeva Subad Rage Nritya Range. As the car began to move, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his personal associates in front of the cars occupied by Lord Balaram and Subhadra, the goddess of fortune. Greatly inspired, he then began to dance in front of them. Tahan Nritya Kore Jagannath Age Aila Jagannath Deke Nritya Korite Lagila. After finishing the dance before Lord Baladev and Subhadra, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came before Lord Jagannath's car. Upon seeing Lord Jagannath, he began to dance again. Chaliya Aila Rata Balagande Stane Jagannath Rata Raki Deke Dahine Bame. When they reached the place called Balagandi, Lord Jagannath stopped his car and began to look left and right. Bame Vipra Shashana Narikelaban Dahineta Pushpodjana Jena Brindavan. On the left side, Lord Jagannath saw a neighborhood of Brahmins and a coconut tree grove. On the right side, he saw nice flower gardens resembling those in the holy place of Vrindavan. Agenitya Kore Goraloya Bhaktagan Rata Raki Jagannatha Korana Darshan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees were dancing in front of the car, and Lord Jagannath, having stopped the car, watched the dancing. Sestane Bogalage Achaye Niyama Koti Boga Jagannatha Kori Aspradan. It was customary that food be offered to the Lord at Vipra Shashana. Indeed, innumerable dishes of food were offered, and Lord Jagannath tasted each one of them. It was customary that food be offered to the Lord at Viprashasana. Indeed, innumerable dishes of food were offered, and Lord Jagannath tasted each one of them. Jagannath era Chota Bora Jata Bhaktagan Nija Nija Uttama Boga Kore Samarpan. All kinds of devotees of Lord Jagannath, from neophytes to the most advanced, offered their best cooked food to the Lord. Raja Raja Mahishi Brinda Patra Mitragan Nilachala Jata Jata Chota Borajan. Those devotees included the king, his queens, his ministers and friends, and all other big and small residents of Jagannath Puri. Nana Deshir Deshi Jat Jatrika Jan Nija Nija Boga Tahan Kore Samarpan. All the visitors who had come from different countries to Jagannath Puri, as well as the local devotees, offered their personally cooked food to the Lord. Age Panche Dui Parshve Pushpo Dhyana Vane Jai Jaha Pai Lagai Nahika Niyame. The devotees offered their food everywhere, in front of the car and behind it, on the two sides and within the flower garden. Wherever possible, they made their offering to the Lord, for there were no hard and fast rules. Bogera Samai Lokera Mahabida Hoila Nritya Chari Mahaprabhu Upabane Gela. While the food was being offered, a large crowd of people gathered. At that time, Mahaprabhu stopped his dancing and went to a nearby garden. So this is in Balagandi, and it is near Viprashasana. Viprashasana is a word generally used in the Orissa province to indicate the quarters of where Brahmins live. Okay. Bogera Samai Loker Mahabida Hoila Nrityachari Mahaprabhu Upavanigela. While the food was being offered, a large crowd of people gathered. At that time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stopped his dancing and went to a nearby garden. Premaveshe Mahaprabhu Upavana Paya Pushpa Ujjanin Griha Pindaya Rahila Padiya Premaveshe Mahaprabhu Upavana Paya Pushpa Ujjani Griha Pindaya Rahila Padiya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered the garden and, immersed in great ecstatic emotion, fell flat on a raised platform there. Nritya Parishrame Prabhur Dehe Gana Gamar. Nritya Parishrame Prabhur Dehe Gana Garma Sugandhi Shitala Bayu Korana Sebana. The Lord was very much fatigued from the hard labor of dancing, and there was perspiration all over his body. He therefore enjoyed the fragrant, cool breeze of the garden. Jadabhakta Kirtaniya Asya Arame Pratibrika Tale Sabe Korana Vishrame. All the devotees who had been performing Sankirtan came there and took rest under each and every tree. Eta Kohila Prabhur Mahasankirtan Jagannathara Age Jaiche Korila Nirtan. Thus I have described the great performance of congregational chanting of Sankirtan, Mahasankirtan, by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as he danced in front of Lord Jagannath. Ratha-yatra Prabhu Jaiche Korila Nartan Chaitanyastake Rupa Gosai Koryache Barnan. In his prayer known as Chaitanyastaka, Srila Rupa Goswami has given a vivid description of the Lord's dancing before the car of Jagannath. Srila Rupa Goswami composed 3 prayers entitled Chaitanyastaka. The verse next quoted is text 7 from the first of the Chaitanyastaka prayers, which are included in the book Stavamala. Rataru Dashyarad Adi Padavi Nilachalapater Adabra Primormi Swurita Nato no Lasa Vivasa Saharsham Gayadbi Paribrita Tanur Vaishnava Janai Sa Chaitanya Kim Me Punar Api Drishur Yashyati Padam. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced down the main road in great ecstasy before Lord Jagannath, the master of Nilachala, and was sitting on his car. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced down the main road in great ecstasy before Lord Jagannath, the master of Nilachala, who was sitting on his car, overwhelmed by the bliss of dancing and surrounded by Vaishnavas who sang the holy names. He manifested waves of ecstatic love of Godhead. When will Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again be visible to my vision? Ihaje Shuni say Sri Chaitanya Pai Sudrida Vishvasa Saha Prema Bhakti Hoy. Anyone who hears this description of the car festival will attain Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He will also attain the elevated state by which he will have firm conviction in devotional service and love of Godhead. So, anyone who hears this description of the car festival will attain Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He will also attain the elevated state by which he will have firm conviction in devotional service and love of Godhead. Shri Rupa Raghunath Parijara As Chaitanya Charitamrita Kohe Krishnadas. Praying at the lotus feet of Shri Rupa and Shri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I Krishnadas narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya-lila 13th chapter, describing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic dancing at Lord Jagannath's car festival. Okay. Hare Haraya Nama Krishna Jaravaya Nama Jaravaya Maravaya Keshavaya Nama Gopa Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Garadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Echai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan Jaoite Vignana Shamista Puran Echai Gosai Jarmui Taradas Tasabar Pada Renu Mora Panchagras Pader Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas Janame Janame More Abhilas Echai Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Manjai Aman Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamudas Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamudas Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhari Ju Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Dara Sadar Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Dara Sadar Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishordas Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Rupanuga Guru Bharga ki jai. Namachari Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasha Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Premsigo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Bhagavad ki jai. Narottam Srinivas Shamananda Prabhu ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vishvavarinya Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmal Acharya Maharaj ki jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Madhacharya Vrinda ki jai. Shri Navadip Dham ki jai. Shri Dham Mayapur ki jai. Saparshada Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai. Saparshada Sriman Mahaprabhu ki jai. Shri Koladvip ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki jai. Soquel Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Seva ki jai. Ganga Devi ki jai. Tulasi Maharani ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Govardhan. Shyam Kunda Radha Kunda Kalindi Yamuna Jo ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. All the assembled devotees ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo.